Welcome back, everyone, to Geek. I'm your host JG, and today we're going to be reviewing House of the Dragon, season 1, episode 7. And my God, this felt like a season finale. This felt like an episode 9 of Game of Thrones. What an episode! I can't wait to break it down, discuss, review, whatever we're talking about. It's going to be about season 1, episode 7 today. Some minor spoilers probably for Game of Thrones, all of the seasons. Some minor spoilers for the books as well, and any episode up until episode 7. But with that out of the way, if you like the content, please liking, sharing, subscribing. It all helps. Comments, it all helps. So thanks a lot for the support so far. But yeah, let's get onto the discussion review. So as last time, I thought it'd be a good idea just to recap with the key players we've got here. The episode kind of started off slowly. I must admit, there was probably 15 minutes of that funeral where we started off for Lane of Valarion. It was a bit of a slow burner, but I think there was some interesting character development and interesting tension between certain characters. You could see Rhaenyra, by the looks of it, hadn't seen Daemon for a while. And Viserys he looked quite awkward going over to Daemon as well when they'd all been and done with the funeral for Laena. But I think the first main thing to talk about is Daemon's little snigger, little giggle when the funeral was going on. I thought that was it's such a Daemon thing now, and as we've come to know Daemon and understand he's this rogue prince, and he really doesn't give a shit. He does anything he wants basically, and the amount of times he's come back to court after being thrown out by Viserys or challenged by someone is really it's a fantastic character. He's probably my favourite character on the show so far. Probably along with Viserys. I think Viserys has done a mighty good job. But yeah, when Daemon had his moment in that funeral, I just loved it. I thought that was Daemon all over. But I think, like, just going back to the funeral afterwards, after the coffin went into the sea of Laena's, there was a lot of tension. You can see it's building. The tension is, and really not much went on, but I think as soon as Viserys went to bed, and as soon as Daemon went off, and obviously Rhaenyra went after him, sending the kids to bed, I think that's when things started going in motion, and that's when that's when the episode started to snowball. Then, because we had Viserys call Alicent Emma, and I thought that was a nice little insight there into whether that's Viserys' marbles going upstairs, or it's probably just that actually. And I think once he'd gone, and we had the conversation between Rhaenyra and Daemon. I mean, we all know what happened there. They had the kind of the beach scene and the kiss, and that for me was the start of House of the Dragon. Those two coming together my God, it was after a funeral. I mean, who does this crazy shit after a funeral and you're declaring basically your love for your uncle? I thought it was a great episode, and I thought that for me, that scene on the beach, whilst the lighting wasn't that good, and it did remind me of The Long Night, it kick-started House of the Dragon for me, like this whole civil war. Because the storyline, and I'll try and make this as spoiler-free as possible, the storyline really doesn't kick off until Rhaenyra and Daemon come together. So this episode, for me, was the beginning of the show. Like, anything happened previously to this point has been almost a prologue to the House of the Dragon. But now, going forward, we're going to be in the timeline from next week. We were established in all the main players. We've got Otto Hightower back as Hand. And we will start to see the Civil War begin. Now, I thought the Rhaenyra and Daemon scene was brilliant. And like I said, I didn't think that the lighting was that good. I was lucky to watch it with my missus in a dark room quite late at night. So it didn't really affect us that well. But if you look at it, it looks like a scene shot at night with a filter over the camera. And I thought that could have been a bit better. But the scene itself was really good. And what that transitioned to is the whole Aemond and Vhagar scene with the dragon. And my God, did that CGI look good. The CGI looked good. I loved the ropes all over the dragon. I'm loving the seats on the dragon. It's a lot more practical than what we saw Daenerys trying to tackle with in Game of Thrones. And the fact that Aemon just comes in and takes this dragon from the Valerians, because it's basically changed hands. It's gone from a kind of Rhaenyra side to an Alicent side now. And I thought that was such a great thing to do. And really, it establishes Aemon going forward as quite a power player, because Aegon, yes, he's quite lazy about his part to play in this, and he really doesn't think he's ever going to be heir to the throne. Helene has established herself as this dreamer, and she said a couple of things now which will build upon her character as more of the philosophical sort of thing, the dreamer, the visionary, looking into the past maybe. We've already heard her say a couple of things about looking into the future. And one of the things that comes to pass is Aemond gaining a dragon, but losing an eye. And again, I thought Aemon's scene, not just with the dragon, but the fight with the other kids after, was brilliant. And it was some of the best scenes we've seen in the show so far. So I think we're seeing a lot of characters overlap now. We're seeing a lot of storylines start to overlap. We're seeing all of the key players start to overlap in one way or another. And I like the fact that they're bringing the kids in, and they're bringing the kids involved, and they're giving them their own sort of subplots. Aemond looks as if he'll be a big major player going forward, probably even more so than Aegon. And I won't spoil anything because I know what happens in the books, and you'll see the book behind me. But I know what happens, and so I won't be spoiling that. But by the looks of this episode, Aemon looks like a real key player moving forward, especially now he's snatched Vhagar, who is the biggest dragon, by the way, from Baelor or Rhaena, because they believed it was their right to almost... they believed it was their right to have this dragon after their mother, Laena, had this dragon, but that's not how it works in House of the Dragon, and we've established you've got to take what you want, you've got to fight for what you want, and if you don't, someone will just come and take your dragon from under you. So I thought it was a great power play from Aemond. Like I said, the CGI was fantastic, and it sets up a lot of... it kind of evens the score, really, because Corlys Valerian's got the ships. We saw all those dragons on Driftmark. One belonging to Rhaenys Targaryen, i.e. the queen who never was. One's Laena's. We saw Daemon's. We saw Rhaenyra's. I think we saw Dreamfire as well, and that would have been Helena's. And, I mean, there were quite a few there, so... yeah, it was interesting to see all of those dragons in one place as well. It was such a good episode, and it had everything. It had dragons, it had romance, it had politics, it had death, it had, that ending. My God, let's skip to the ending, because that twist with Laenor was a shock to me, because I mean, spoilers for the books, but in the books, it's unknown who apparently kills Laenor, and that's why I've got him with a cross on the kind of the family tree here, because I don't think we'll see Laenor ever again, and I think that's probably the closest we'll get to a happily ever after with House of the Dragon, with Game of Thrones. You know, this civil war, no one's safe. No one's safe, but I think the way Rhaenyra and Daemon did that, they gave him some gold, and the setup of that scene between, I think his name's Carl with a Q, Carl, Laenor's kind of boyfriend, partner sort of thing. The way they set that up, I mean, it was shocking even for me, and I know what happens in the books, but it was shocking in the way that I thought it was Laenor, and my missus knew it was not Laenor. She knew that there was going to be the big reveal on the boat, and I thought it was just a fantastic scene. My favourite scene in this, though, and yes, the courtroom, and we'll come back to the courtroom because a lot happened in the courtroom, and obviously that then was probably kick-started, as well as Rhaenyra and Daemon coming together, this whole civil war, and you can see that Alicent is just, yeah, she just wants to get at Rhaenyra, but I think the marriage and the speech by Rhaenyra was my favourite part of this scene. Any part of this show with them talking in Valyrian has been absolutely fantastic, and it's just turns it up a little dial for me. It gives us something that really we didn't see a lot of in Game of Thrones. It gives us book readers it's a nod to us book readers. The whole Valyrian thing, it's kind of their secret. It's like their secret language, and they only seem to talk it when either they want to convey something really emotional and really deep to themselves, or when there's others about. So it'd be interesting to see what happens going forward with Rhaenyra and Daemon, and maybe in Viserys, when we see them in the same vicinity as Alicent and the other key players. Because I wonder if they'll speak Valyrian then, and almost speak it as a, like in secret code. So we'll see. But yeah, I just thought this episode honestly felt like a season finale, or a special episode 9, and what we're used to with the kind of Game of Thrones structure. I mean, look, all of the episodes so far have been outstanding. One or two at the start weren't as good as what we've gotten, so at the moment. And yes, there have been some flaws. Yes, there has been some mediocre moments. But this episode had it all. And what isn't to love, really? I mean, it's just setting up the civil war to come. We're going to use this episode. We're going to follow the same structure we did with our previous episode, number 6. Thanks for all the views. Thanks for all the likes with that one. We're going to focus on the family tree first. We're going to establish the what happened, and probably go into the storylines a bit more detail. We're going to establish the key deaths. We're going to establish the key changes, and then I think depending on how long the episode goes for, I think we'll then have a quick run through of the episode, like we did at the back end of episode 6 review. If you haven't checked that out, feel free to check that out and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And we're looking to do all the content. Just I suppose a plug for our other content on Geek is we cover everything, TV and film. We'll be doing some film reviews soon, and our gaming playthroughs are something we're looking to build upon and get some more content out for you all. Now, obviously, the big scene in this episode was the courtroom, the Driftmark courtroom scene. We had Alicent charging at Rhaenyra with the knife, with the with the, what's it called, the cat's paw dagger, as what we saw in the trailers. And we had the big line from Rhaenyra, now they see you for who you really are. And I thought that was a great line. And I think what we'll end up doing at the end of this season is probably putting together a top 10, maybe top 12, top 20 banger lines, because some of the lines in this, some of the original dialogue in this has been absolutely brilliant. And, you know, I know a few of the channels, I think Supercut Delights has done one, and I'll link his channel below. Supercut Delights for Game of Thrones before did like a top 20 lines, and I thought that was a great video. And I think we'll be doing top 20 banger lines. Maybe not call it that, but honestly, there's been some cracking lines even from episode 1, and we're still getting some great dialogue going forward as well. But yeah, back to the courtroom. I thought it was a really good scene. It was really well done. The lighting was good compared to the other scenes in this. Again, Rhaenyra's children called into question. And this has even now been spoken about in front of Viserys. Viserys was fronted with this argument that Rhaenyra's children may be bastards. And just what Aegon said, I mean, baby Aegon, who we've got here, he even said, look, father, you can tell they're not, you can tell they're not Laena's. You can tell that they're bastard children. And he wasn't having it. He wasn't having none of it. All he wants is his family to get along, and he just wants peace. But no, Alicent's not having any of this, because she knows they're bastards, and that decision by Viserys to look the other way prevents her lineage from being on the Iron Throne. And I thought that kind of built up aggression and anger and frustration from Alicent really came out. It really came to the forefront of this episode. And that whole scene with the knife and charging at Rhaenyra, it was all of her frustrations coming out in one scene, and I thought it was fantastic. But Rhaenyra stood her ground, and equally, whilst I'm not warming to Rhaenyra, even still, equally, I thought she played the part very well in that scene, and in a lot of the other scenes in this episode, particularly where Daemon's involved. Now, in that scene as well, we had, I know it was only a slight scene, but we had Daemon step in front of Kristen Cole when Alicent had asked for the eye of one of, I think it was Lucerys, who she'd asked for the eye of, because he was the one that took Aemon's eye. And that makeup and that kind of prosthetics or whatever was going on with Aemon's eye was brilliant. Yeah, and it was such a powerful scene as well. It was, I mean, me and the missus were shocked. We were just glued to our chairs and we couldn't believe what was going on. It was just politics at an all-time high. It was Family Feud at an all-time high. The stakes were at an all-time high. And Alicent's a dangerous character, and that was equally reflected on what Otto said later on in after that scene, when he said, well done. He was proud of her, and this means now that she's ready for the Game of Thrones. She's established herself as, she's not taking any shit, she's doing her own thing, she's got the power of the Queen behind her, and Otto's proud of that. And Otto recognises now that she can stand on her own 2 feet, make decisions, make the right decision. But having Otto now as Hand of the King again just gives her that even more power. What I suspect will happen, and I don't think this is a spoiler for the books, but I suspect she will poison Viserys' ear going forward, because either that or Viserys will be a bit of a piggy in the middle, much like he is on this kind of family tree we've got going on here, because yes, Daemon looks like he's in the middle, but no, he's very much on the Valerian Rhaenyra side of things, whereas now we've established that whilst Alicent hasn't got many friends at court, she's got a lot of power, and especially now Aemond having Vhagar and bringing that dragon superpower to her side has made the kind of the Hightower Queen side of things a lot more dangerous. With that said, though, I think Rhaenyra still holds more cards, better cards than what Alicent does. She's got the Valerians on her side, and whether that dynamic changes, we will see. She's got Daemon now on her side through the marriage. She's got more dragons on her side, so she's got that superpower as well. They're almost like nuclear warheads. They're almost like, the atom bomb times however many they've got now. And maybe we'll do like a breakdown at the end of the season again. There's a few ideas I've got. Maybe we'll do a breakdown about whose dragon is who, what the key characteristics are, and where those dragons are at the end of the show as well, at the end of season 1. But yeah, I thought the courtroom drama was peak House of the Dragon. I mean, this episode, to be fair, was probably peak season, and it will be. I read something I think I read it on Twitter today, and whoever this guy was, he was like an insider or something. He'd seen episode 8, and he said it blows episode 7 out of the water. I was glued to my chair the whole time. I couldn't believe it was as good. It was better than episode 7, and it was peak season. Now, from what I gathered, episode 5 was like a mid-season finale because we had the time jump going into episode 6, and I thought maybe it'll slow down coming into 7, 8, and maybe 9, and then we'll get the big one in episode 10. But it looks like we're just getting absolute banger episode after banger episode, and this doesn't look like it's slowing down. This show doesn't look like it's slowing down, and I can't wait. I love the fact that they've given us basically probably 5 epic episodes at the moment. It just goes to show the quality of the story writing from George R.R. Martin, the great work that Ryan Condal's done. I think some of the episodes Mikhail Sapochnik has directed have been maybe the weakest. This one with the lighting did have its flaws, but I think that's probably the only thing going against this episode. But yeah. So after that courtroom drama, we had the exchange between Alicent and Otto. I think we also had an exchange between Alicent and Larys as well. And that's a funny old relationship between those two, because he's almost like begging for Alicent's kind of time and effort and energy. And he's laying it on a plate. He's like, listen, I'll do anything for you. I'll kill my own family. I'm Lord now to Harrenhal, one of the strongest, biggest castles in the land. I've got a lot of power now. I can control a large army by the sounds of it. So I'm at your beck and call. And he is a right snake in the grass. And I'm looking forward to see what they do with Larys going forward. I didn't really get the sense that he was such a big player in the books, but I think because we've established him now as more that Littlefinger / Varys-esque character, they can do a lot with him going forward. So we had the beach scene, we had the dragon scene with Aemond, we had the courtroom scene, we had the exchange between Alicent and Otto, we had the exchanges with Larys, and then the episode then... we had that interesting exchange between Corlys and Rhaenys as well. And I thought some of the dialogue there was brilliant. How they dropped two of those banger lines, and we'll see if we can try and get them up when we do the episode review, when we go through the episode scene by scene. But I think it was something from from one of the trailers. History doesn't remember blood, it remembers names, and how true that is. Because Corlys is almost bypassing the fact that, and recognising the fact that he knows these children aren't Laena's. But he also knows that they've been branded as Velaryons, and when they take the throne, well, if they take the throne, they will be Targaryens. And really, only the history books will remember the Targaryen name. Only the history books will remember the Velaryon name. And that's all really that matters. And I think Corlys is embracing his Velaryon, his Targaryen family heritage, his Valerian, his own Valerian heritage. But yeah, for Daemon to, that snidey remark, what he had for Corlys's brother, I can't remember his brother's name, but the guy who was doing the speech during the funeral, when the guy was talking about lineage and blood and keeping it pure, I only clocked that on a second watch, that he was when he was talking about those things, Daemon started laughing at his own wife's funeral. My God. But yeah, so we had those exchanges, and I thought they were very good. They were very quick, but they were very powerful, very good. And then we went into the final scenes with Rhaenyra talking about the Velaryons of water. But we, Rhaenyra and Daemon, we are made of fire. We are to burn as one. And that, for me, like with the scene on the beach and that scene with Rhaenyra's speech on kind of the mountaintop when she was talking about getting married and proposed to Daemon, and intercutting with the marriage, that was the start of House of the Dragon for me. The prologue's finished. This is the start. I can't wait for what's to come. And yeah, I think, my God, how can this episode be topped? Well, I said that in probably episode 3 and 4, and we had episode 5, and then we had episode 6, which probably wasn't as good as episode 5, but this is probably the best episode so far, considering what happened. It was back to back, absolute amazing scene after amazing scene, and they do things so subtly. They don't tell you. They're not obvious with telling you. They let the dialogue do the work. They let the characters, the emotion do the work. And I'm not going to say it yet, but it's getting there with some of the quality we saw with Game of Thrones. Now, yes, the timeline stuff is a problem for some. It's probably not a problem for me, because I like the fact that they've, instead of doing all this fast travel, and they've gotten around that, and as I said in other episode reviews, they've gotten around that with the time jumps, and I think that's been okay, because they need to get to the key part of the story early doors, and the fact that so much happens before this civil war between the Greens and the Blacks is it's great that they've put all of this kind of prologue, pre-story, pre-detail, establishing the characters, and I think it's been brilliantly done by Ryan Condal, the show writer, and you can tell he's taking it seriously. There's no crap jokes. There's no kind of weak humour, much like we see in things like Marvel these days, and a lot of Disney-related stuff. They have to throw in like the odd joke and make things less serious. No, they're taking it really serious. And you can see that George Martin's on board. You can see that he's got a lot of input into this. There's a lot of heraldry still. There's a lot of book little things here and there. And whilst the prophecy stuff, and I'm gutted that the prophecy stuff has took a back seat. We did see one part with the dagger, but that's as much as we've got after the last few episodes. I hope they really, because now Rhaenyra and Daemon have embraced their Targaryenness. They're both fire. Daemon had that line a couple of episodes ago. He wants to marry Rhaenyra. He wants to restore the House of the Dragon to its glory, because he thinks Viserys hasn't done anything to enhance the Targaryen name. I believe Daemon thinks Viserys has gone as far as splitting the Targaryen name and splitting the crown. But Daemon now believes, and Rhaenyra believes, that joining them two together in marriage, now that Laena's gone, they can restore the house to its former glory. What an episode. What an episode. And, obviously we had the aftermath of Laena's death from the previous episode, and I thought, whilst the funeral scene was slow, I thought it was a really good scene. And then towards the end of the episode, we had we're going to call it the Laenor death, because the characters believe he's dead, apart from Rhaenyra and Daemon, I think. And I wonder who's going to die next, because we can't have a Game of Thrones episode without a death. So I wonder, I don't think it will be a key player in the next couple of episodes. And spoiler for the next episode. Next episode, in episode 8, is the last time jump. So from next episode, episode 8, we then are starting with the actual House of the Dragon timeline going forward. There won't be many, if any, big time skips. So all of the players that we've got involved next episode are the ones we're going to see going forward. Where do we see, and I've heard some rumours for seasons in the future, some flashbacks, bringing back the younger Rhaenyra, the younger Alicent. I hope they do, because they played such a good part and they did such a good job. And I actually prefer the younger Rhaenyra to this one at the moment. This one's she seems pissed off all the time. She seems really emotionless. She seems really a bit stuck up. Whereas the younger version of Rhaenyra, Millie Alcock, she played such a good part. She was really full of emotion. You could see she was that real bratty sort of fiery Targaryen, and that she really embraced that and really embraced her roots. This one, she's quite placid. She's a bit annoyed. She seems afraid or annoyed, and maybe that's the current state of affairs with all the politics and drama going on, and maybe she feels vulnerable because of her position as heir is being taken into question by Alicent and being taken into question by others, especially Alicent's side. Maybe that's the part she's playing, perhaps. But yeah, I still haven't warmed to Rhaenyra. Not yet. Hopefully hopefully that fiery Targaryen comes out of her. We saw a little bit of that at the end of this episode with the "we are both made of fire" Daemon doing bad things for good reason, bringing that real Targaryen fire out. And this is based on a book called Fire and Blood, and she embraced that fire and blood. These are the words of House Targaryen. She embraced those words of House Targaryen. So we'll see going forward. But yeah, I thought this was a brilliant episode. Probably the best so far. And so much happened. What I think we'll do then is we'll move on to the episode scene by scene. We've already got that set up, and I think we'll try and get to some of the good dialogue, and we'll try and get to some of the key moments in the episode. I mean, The funeral scene, I think we've discussed, but it was great to see everyone there, all of the key players. And is this the part where he has the bit of a giggle? When they go back to him. Oh, it was a nice... See, again, this whole thing about don't tell us, show us. And it's such a subtle little piece about just showing Otto with his hand of the king. Oh yeah, when we move into... This is where he has the little giggle. I thought that was brilliant. That was proper Daemon, that was. So we get the funeral. I mean, look at the heraldry. All the key players are there. It's such a powerful scene. I mean, the aftermath probably did go on a bit. Let's just catch up. All this shot with all the dragons. I thought that was really good. Let's see if we can get the shot in there. I mean, it's hard to tell who those are, but it's great to see, like, the money well spent there, because, my God, the CGI is just brilliant in this episode. And it was clear that the tensions were high. Yes, it's a funeral, but the sides and the battle lines have already been drawn, you can tell. And Rhaenyra's done well to establish herself as, you know, with Daemon on her side, with the Valerians now, that, you know, bringing those two families closer. And she does a good job, like, portraying a sense that she loves her kids, and, you know, she only wants the best for her kids, despite them being bastards. But that isn't the last time. This episode isn't the last time that will be, you know, come into question. And I thought that was I'm sure that's one of the shots actually from the trailers that we saw early doors. But you can see Viserys. I mean, Viserys looking pretty good compared to last episode. Maybe because he's tightened himself up for the funeral, but he doesn't look so good there. I thought this was interesting. The stuff that Helena was saying as well, because you can tell she starts talking about green and black, and not to give too much away, but I know you've probably seen it with the marketing materials. Alicent's side is going to be known as the Greens because of her green dress, if you remember from episode 5. And the Targaryen side, Rhaenyra, Daemon, etc., are going to be known as the Blacks going forward. And this whole civil war is between the Greens and the Blacks. We had a scene with the brothers. I thought that was really good with Aegon and Aemond, and giving us that dialogue, as well as establishing Aegon is actually now betrothed to Helena. And I thought that was an interesting way of, a subtle way of bringing that in, that they're embracing their, whilst they've got Hightower blood, they're embracing their Targaryen heritage, the lineage, and their practices as well. I know we've had Alicent say, oh, you Targaryens with your weird practices, or whatever she said, but I like the fact that they're embracing that and showing us at the same time Aegon is betrothed to Helena. And we've got Larys lurking in the background there. And people are starting to notice that he's lurking. Whether he wants Alicent romantically, I don't think he does. I think he, like I said in number 6, he just wants her politically, I think. And he thinks he can do a lot for Alicent. Alicent, I don't think is quite prepared for Larys yet, but it's almost like an ace up her sleeve. He is like the big guns politically, the big guns. He will do things that others won't. So we'll see what he has in store in the episodes to come. Oh, it's a sweet little scene with the kids as well. And I like that they're giving them kind of their own little subplots. Then we move on to Corlys talking with Lucerys. Now, because Jacaerys at the moment is the son of Rhaenyra, the firstborn son. He technically there now is the heir after the heir, and when the king dies, it's likely that Rhaenyra will be queen, or would it be the? I'm actually unsure how Westerosi politics will play in there, but because Jacaerys will be eventually the heir to the Iron Throne, that leaves Lucerys, and bear in mind, because of his Targaryen heritage, he will then inherit Driftmark. So I thought that was interesting that Corlys is embracing Lucerys as heir for Driftmark, even though he pretty much knows he's not Laena's son. So it's interesting that the family's starting to split, but there was a bit of tension as well between Alicent and Rhaenys there, and whether that plays a part in episodes to come, I suspect it will. Now you can see some of the kids, they get along. Yeah, you can see some of the kids, they get along, but the emotion on Laenor's face, I mean, it's only right. But he's making a fool of himself in Corlys's eyes. Now, it did drag on the funeral, as I said. It did drag on a bit, but it does lead us into the beach scene, and to be quite frank, it's only until we get to the beach scene is where things really start to kick off. I don't know why this isn't buffering too well. So there we get Aemon. Let's try and see if we can skip. So we get to the beach scene, and you can clearly see there's a lot of sexual tension between the two of them. We've seen all of the scenes before, especially the one at the wedding, where Rhaenyra said basically, take me now in front of all of these people and marry me and we'll go to Dragonstone. But here they embrace that, and Rhaenyra's like, yeah, I'm no longer a child. I like you, you like me, let's have a family. Or let's go and get it on and, start something. I mean, I like the fact that they talk about Laenor, they talk about, they're honest with each other, and they talk about Harwin. Harwin strong, break bones. Obviously, Daemon is probably aware that he is the father of the children. It's quite obvious, isn't it? And they talk about the murders. But then this part about depravity, and again, it was only something that I picked up on a second time watch, which was they were talking about, and this is probably obvious to you guys, but they were talking about them being deprived of one another, I think. So I thought that was a great little scene. Now, yeah, the lighting isn't bad. It's a bit blurry, but I get what they're trying to do. They're kind of trying to give us the sunset scene and set the kind of dark, mellow, quiet tone. And to be fair, I mean, I'm not going to play this with the sound on, but they've got the waves in the background. I thought that was a nice little subtle detail. I thought it was brilliant. And look what some of the banger lines in this scene though were brilliant. And it's clear that they have a lot of love for each other. And here we go, she goes in for the kiss. And I like the fact that he doesn't say he loved her, because it was done pretty much out of duty. And it was done for the fact that he couldn't have Rhaenyra at the time as well. Now, there are times where Rhaenyra's character is a bit robotic with some of her acting. Maybe she kind of eases into the role. What was preferred with the young the young Rhaenyra, even from the start, she was like really really like she was like easy with her character. It felt easy to her. Sometimes I get the feeling with, I think her name's Emma Darcy, with her approach, it is quite uptight and a bit stubborn and robotic at times. So I hope she kind of embraces more of that fiery, bratty Targaryenness when we move into later episodes. But yeah, they're moving for the kiss. No, I'm no longer a child, Damon. And they embrace each other. Isn't that sweet? And then I think, yeah, then we get the sex scene, and we all know what this means. I have a feeling, and I don't even think this needs to be a spoiler. There's definitely going to be a kid on the way after this, because anytime anyone's had sex in this episode, in this season, they've either had to have moon tea, or a kid, a child's been born. But then we move straight into the Aemon scene with the dragon. I just think it's their fuck then. With the dragon and the CGI there, I mean, just looks absolutely so impressive. And I like the fact that they've got little ropes to get onto the dragon, but you can see the grand size of Vhagar compared to Aemon. Bloody hell. And the fact, I mean, he's got to have a set of balls on him. The fact that he's that close to being absolutely smoked, but no, he embraces it, and he speaks a little bit of Valyrian. He speaks a little bit of Valyrian to the dragon, and fair play to him. He's granted his wish. I thought it was a brilliant scene. It did remind me, though, of that scene in Harry Potter where Harry's on that, is it the Gryffindor? Or the Griffin, and he's going down in the water. It did remind me a bit of Harry Potter. And then we get the, let's see if we can fast forward this to, oh yeah, so this is the scene with the eye. And what this is showcasing, let's see if we can. It's buffering really slow today. Oh, there we go. There we go. So if you recall the previous episode, that small scene with Alicent and Aemond, when he's talking about, I haven't got a dragon, blah, blah, blah. Helena is still in the room, and she says he'll get a dragon, but he'll lose an eye. And this is that prophecy, or that prophetic vision, dream, perhaps, coming true. Because he even says it himself, and we'll get to that scene shortly, where he says, don't mourn for me, mother. Let's see if we can jump to that, because we get a lot of the, yeah. Oh no, it's further on than this. But yeah, he says, don't mourn for me, mother. I've lost an eye, but I've gained a dragon. Another banger line. Probably going to the top 20. But this is the part where I explained earlier, where Aegon basically comes clean. And he's like, just look at them, father. Just look at them. They don't even look like Targaryens. And yeah, Viserys, no one gives a shit what he has to say anymore. Everyone's just overpowering him, speaking over him, not doing what he's saying. And he's losing his power as king. He's losing his influence as king. Yes, he's deteriorating in his health, but his power's deteriorating as well. And it's evident in this scene. Your blood. So this is where Sir Kristen's like, yep, I'll get his eye. I'm just waiting for her to pull the knife from him. Oh, there we go. There's the shot. The trailer with the knife. And let's see if we can get that shot of Damon stepping in. There we go. Listen, mate, not today. And he's clearly on Rhaenyra's side there. Now this is I thought that was interesting. Now by the fire, the blade glows red, as we saw, I think, in episode 4. And I thought Alicent's acting was brilliant here. I'm wondering where we get the scene about with Rhaenyra's line. There we go.
How they see you as you.
Again, another great line, and another line from the trailer. Actually, I think we saw that in one of the trailers. But yeah, everyone's just absolutely outraged by what's gone on here. And this was peak politics. This was peak House of the Dragon right here at the time. Here we go. Do not mourn me, mother.
But I gained a dragon.
But I lost an eye, but I gained a dragon. My God, that makeup looks brilliant in the prosthetics. And to be fair, spoilers again for the episode 8 trailer. He looks insanely cool with the eye patch in episode 8. Aemon does. So yeah, we get the disperse of everyone, and then we get these little conversations now. The first one's with Otto and Alicent, and basically he's proud. He's like, "Yeah, you're ready for the Game of Thrones. I can tell you're ready." And she's always been, or she's always portrayed herself as always doing what her father has told her to do. But now, and ever since he's been out of the picture, Otto, she's had to develop herself as either a lone wolf or use the people around her to maximise her chances of success. Now Otto's back on the scene. She's not only got that independence, but she's got Otto as much her hand as he is as Viserys' hand. So she's now got her independence, but she's also got the wisdom, that kind of Tywin Lannister-esque experience, strategic mind of Otto as well. And I think these two play such a great part together, as well as now I like the fact that they're going to they're not, they're going their separate ways in sort of, not separate ways, but they're independent of one another as well as being a great team. And yes, it's interesting now because both sides are equally as grey. And what I mean by that is, you can see Alicent's point. The kids are clearly bastards. The kids are clearly not heirs to the throne. And what that means is my son, i.e. baby Aegon, should be heir to the throne. But equally, you can see Rhaenyra's point, which is the king, who is still the king, still alive, has granted me the heir to the Iron Throne. And until that decision changes, I am still the heir. My children remain the heir. And no one can prove otherwise. I don't doubt there's any sort of thing as DNA tests or anything. I don't think the Maesters can come up with anything. Power resides where men, and I guess women in this case, believe it resides. And at the moment, yes, there are squabbles between the two factions, but I'm guessing the general consensus is people still believe Rhaenyra is the heir. Her children are still the heir in their eyes as well. So I thought this was a great little scene between the two. And then we move into I forgot about this scene actually with
Steel.
Nice little callback about Valyrian steel there. I forgot about this scene. I don't think it was.
You as well.
Oh, he says he wants to, yeah, he basically offers her his loyalty and arm as a sword, basically. And he goes on about he hasn't been the best husband and father. But Rhaenyra's like, yeah, you did your best. And you're an honourable man. It's a shame you're gay, because, you know, they could have been a powerhouse. But it's clear that they get along, they've done the duty, they've both had fun outside of the marriage, which is what their agreement was all about. And there is respect there. And I suppose this scene does set up the the scene later on. They do such a good job, and it probably goes without saying, but they do such a good job of illustrating Viserys's bad health, but equally his deteriorating health. And he does look bad and worse each episode. I mean, the fact that we've moved 10 years on and he's still going is a bloody miracle in itself, if you ask me. I thought this was a great little scene between Corlys and Rhaenys. But yeah, this was the banger of... This made the episode, this part now. The whole piece with... the whole speech by Rhaenyra was just... It was peak episode for me. Intercutting with the whole Laenor scene. Let's see if we can get a shot of a few of the banger lines. Oh yeah, another part with Larys. He was kind of like kissing her feet at some point, not literally, metaphorically, but he just wants to be her servant, and I am your servant, he even says there, and I don't think she's prepared to use him yet, considering what he did last time, and she didn't even ask him to do what he did. But it's clear that you're in the back pocket, Larys, and I'll use you when I need you. So it won't be the last time we see Larys do something real nasty. Let's get there. Now, I'm going to try and play as much of this without getting copyrighted. I think the dialogue here is superb. And I absolutely love, it's probably my second love over the prophecy stuff. The fact that they talk so much Valyrian and they do it so well. It's just so natural to them. Now, another I like this line because it's starting to establish now the greens versus the blacks. Why it's the blacks, why it's not the reds, I don't know, but the greens versus the blacks. Let's find our blood. I mean, if that is not the sweetest Targaryen-esque marriage proposal, I don't know what is. Now, yes, she's honest enough to say, if you do marry me, Daemon, my lineage is safe, my claim to the Iron Throne is safe, but subtly, Daemon could also be thinking that as well. Does he really love Rhaenyra? Well, we've established at the moment that he certainly likes her, and he certainly, fancies her, finds her attractive, wants to get in her bed, in her pants. But does he love her? I don't think we've seen enough of them together to establish that yet, but Rhaenyra clearly does love Daemon and wants to do the marriage not just for political reasons, not just for her children's sake, but because of the bond that they share together. And from episode 1, we clearly saw that there was some sort of more than platonic, more than just like a uncle niece relationship there. There was a bit more to it. So they're just embracing that now. And I loved some of the lines here, this one in particular. We've always meant to burn together. And she said something in a minute like she'll say it in a minute, because this is talking about Carl and Laenor. I thought he was giving him some gold to go and kill Laenor, to throw him in the sea, and then get on a ship. And I thought it was going to be as simple as that. But no, they take it one step further, and they turn a great scene into an absolute banger of a scene. I mean, Daemon doing his part there, clearing the way. And maybe it's this guy. I don't even know who was ended up in the fire. Is it this guy on the left? Is it that guy? When they start fighting, he runs off, and I think he goes to Corlys and Rhaenys. Oh my God. I thought that was brilliant as well, where they show the body burned, and the anger and the anguish and the emotion from Rhaenys there is unbelievable. But at the same time, I love the fact that it's intercut by these two, and I'm sure the dialogue's playing over this scene as well. No, we've gone past it, but she does say something, Rhaenyra, like the Velaryons are of the sea, but us Targaryens are made of fire, and we should burn together. And I thought that was another absolute cracker of a line. It's interesting how they how there was a lot of blood, and I've took the thumbnail from this scene because I thought it kind of showcased the episode as a whole, because it really was all about Rhaenyra and Daemon coming together despite everything else that happened. And the kids, someone, I think it was on Twitter again, someone showed a picture of the kids like zoomed in and like, okay, you're my father, and now you're, yeah. They were just a bit puzzled as to what was going on. But yeah, I thought this was a weird kind of ritual, like sacrificial sort of Targaryen wedding. And yes, we didn't see this in Game of Thrones, but I thought it was very Targaryen-esque. A lot of blood, some fire, as we've saw. I think it was one of the previous. There you go. A lot of fire in the background, blood. We've got a maester. We've got witnesses, and then we get the shock that it's actually Laenor and Carl that have escaped. What an ending to the episode! What an ending! Happily ever after for Laenor. The Greens are all pissed off, but they've got a new player in Vhagar and Aemond going forward. The Blacks with Rhaenyra and Daemon, they've joined forces now. God knows who Corlys and Rhaenys think killed Laenor, because in the books I think there was a few names dotted about here. We've got the happily ever after with Laenor and Carl, and it just sets it up for another, what should be absolute cracker of an episode going into number 8. And there we have it. Right, I think that's it. We're just over an hour. If you like the review, and if you like the discussion we're having on these episodes, continue to like, share, comment, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps with the small channel we've got at the moment, building that community. Your help and support anyway is really appreciated. I've loved doing the review today, and can't wait for the next one. Thanks again for joining in. Cheers. Take care. Oh, and we've got our first chatter. MH, how's it going? You will go down in Geek history as our first live chatter. Thanks for joining in, pal, lad or lady or otherwise. I hope you've enjoyed the live stream, and tune in for the next one. Cheers. Take care.